Laws of Reflection. Part 2. We have learnt the two laws of reflection, which states that the angle of incidence is always equal to the angle of reflection, and the incident ray, the normal at the point of incidence, and the reflected ray, lie in the same plane. Now, David wants to know what would happen if he threw light on the mirror along the normal. From the first law of reflection, the angle of incidence is always equal to the angle of reflection. Thus, if the light is falling on the mirror along the normal, then the angle of incidence is 0, and so the angle of reflection is also 0. Which means that the light will be reflected back in the same direction. Now, let us perform an interesting activity to prove the second law of reflection. For this, take a sheet of stiff paper, or a chart paper. Let the sheet extend a little beyond the edge of the table, as shown. Take a comb, and close all its openings, except one in the middle, using a strip of black paper, as shown. Hold the comb perpendicular to the sheet of paper. Throw light from a torch through the opening of the comb from one side, and you will see a ray of light along the paper on the other side of the comb. Keeping the comb and the torch steady, place a strip of plain mirror in the path of the light ray. You will observe a reflected ray, which extends up toward the projected portion of the chart paper. This line represents the normal. Now, cut the projecting portion of the sheet in the middle. Bend that part of the projected portion on which the reflected ray falls. By doing so, you will create a plane different for reflected ray than the plane in which incident ray and the normal lie. Due to this, now you will not be able to see the reflected ray. After this, bring the paper back to the original position, and you will be able to see the reflected ray again. This is because, when the whole sheet of paper is spread on the table, it represents one plane. The incident ray, the normal, at the point of incidence, and the reflected ray, are all in this plane. But, when you bend the paper, you create a plane in which the incident ray and the normal lie, and you do not see the reflected ray. This proves the second law of reflection, that the incident ray, the normal, at the point of incidence, and the reflected ray, all lie in the same plane. These activities can also be performed outside the class, with the sun as the source of light, instead of a torch.